Control City Freak! Yeah! Alright, we're doing a gimmick video today. The Royals are playing Detroit and Cincinnati this week. I've got plenty of content on those, and I'm going to have to make a Detroit video this football season. Today, we are looking at the 10 most distant control cities. Been a while since we've done a list-type gimmick. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. First, I'm going to have to go into the rationale for how I'm making this, the rules for this video. This US 20 East Boston, Mass sign is probably the longest distance control city sign in the United States, but it's not going to count for this sort of thing. First off, we're doing interstates only, so US 20 is automatically eliminated, as are non-American highways. No novelty signs. This US 20 one is kind of a novelty sign. They're not signing Boston throughout. In-state or out-of-state control city signs are both considered. It doesn't matter which one we have. The control city does not have to appear on every mileage sign, but it does have to be signed consistently the whole route. Finally, only mileage signs count, not overhead signs or interchange signs. Some honorable mentions to start out with. First off, some novelty signs on the interstate highways. On I-95 in Petersburg, Virginia, we've got this Rocky Mount and Miami sign. Used to be much cooler signs at the I-85 interchange, but those have sadly gone away because we just can't have nice things. This is similar to the US 20 sign in the beginning. At the start of I-40, we get this Wilmington, North Carolina, 2,554 miles away. Definitely a novelty. At the start of I-70, we get this mileage sign that they actually had to move off of the side of the road and up onto an overhead, I assume because it was probably being stolen a bunch before. These are not qualifying either. Plus, they're leaving off Kansas City. We've got our fun triumvirate in I-75 in northern Ohio. Our first one, Dayton, Lexington, Tampa at 1,100 miles away. So that's awesome that they have Tampa signed that far. But obviously, this is strictly a novelty. This doesn't appear again. The second one of these signs has skipped Dayton and gone right ahead to Cincinnati. And then we also have Atlanta on the sign there as well, so that's pretty fun. The third one is kind of the least interesting novelty sign. Dayton is still our main control city at this point. Lima would be a fine secondary, and then our extra one we're getting is Lexington. So they're skipping Cincinnati, which actually makes less sense in doing a novelty sort of thing, since Cincinnati, much bigger city, much bigger traffic driver than Lexington's going to be. I should mention we've got a Patreon going. There are requests open for future episodes. If you would like to see an exit request or a point of interest on any road, if you're a Patreon member, you can get one for free each month. 191 is next week, and the requests for that are already closed, but 635 is still open, California 99, California 60 all coming up. You can also make requests the old-fashioned way by leaving a $5 super sticker or super thanks on any comment to request a point of interest in an upcoming video. And I've always got those posted in the post section and in the description of each video, so you know it's coming. And I appreciate everybody who does both of those things. The second category of honorable mentions is going to be incomplete signage. So that means we are signing a city from a great distance, but it is not signed all the way on that road. Usually it means a neighboring state will ruin the run. So we'll start here. Coming out of Tucson, El Paso is signed at 294 miles away on a normal mileage sign. It's not a novelty sign. In New Mexico, we stopped signing El Paso so we can sign Lordsburg and Deming. So that's kind of a shame. In Utah, I-84 is signed for Cheyenne at its very start, meaning its intersection with I-80, really signing I-80's control city there. But then further down on 84, in Utah, we are just getting signs for Evanston rather than Cheyenne, so Cheyenne gets broken off really quickly. We get a mileage sign of 422 for Cheyenne coming out of the Salt Lake City metro area on I-80. This does not hold up, as once we get to Wyoming, we are no longer signing Cheyenne for a while. We're signing mainly Rawlins, Rock Springs, Evanston, these sorts of places. On I-80 in Ohio, New York City is correctly signed at 405 miles away, but obviously that gets broken up by 400 ridiculous control cities in Pennsylvania. Same deal out west. Coming out of Flagstaff, we are getting 492 signed for Los Angeles, but that does not hold up on I-40 either. It does hold up for the rest of Arizona, but as soon as we cross into California, we are signed for Barstow, so that's a big miss by Caltrans there. Utah signs Reno in the Salt Lake City area. From the point where I-80 meets I-15 and it's first signed, it's 524 miles from Reno, and this is the first sign I could find mentioning Reno at 504. but once we cross into Nevada, they start signing Elko. In my hometown, Lawrence, Kansas, we have an outlier, Denver 560. Denver is not signed again until Hayes, so far as I know. Portland is I-5 northbound's control city for some distance, but it doesn't get signed regularly until Redding. Famously at the state line of Texas, Beaumont 23, El Paso 857 on I-10, and obviously this is a total novelty. El Paso is not signed all the way. Also, I'm not sure if this sign is even really there right now or not. There's a lot of construction going on here, and it was really hard to find any kind of thing there looking at Street View. On eastbound I-10, we get 581 for Dallas when we're out in the middle of nowhere in West Texas, but Dallas is not consistently signed, honestly, until you're in Fort Worth, because Fort Worth is signed consistently on I-20, and even then, there's a number of smaller control cities along the way before Fort Worth is consistently signed. There's one sign for Salt Lake City in California, at least that I'm aware of, this one. Salt Lake City will become the control city for I-15 on the other side of Vegas. Tulsa is a cool 393 miles away from St. Louis, and it is signed in downtown St. Louis for I-44 on overheads. This gets broken up very quickly by MoDOT as soon as you're past 270. I-57 is famously signed overhead for Memphis, Memphis being about 530 miles away from this point. So that is quite a swing, and I've always thought a pretty good control city. Illinois signs I-57 very strangely, and it's hard to find the mileage signs, but about 100 miles south, I've got Memphis 439 on a mileage sign. Memphis almost would be high in the top 10, but MoDOT ruins it. We've got the 15 miles or whatever of I-57 in Missouri, and Memphis is not signed anywhere on there. Thanks, MoDOT. It's a wonderful run of Memphis, but we cannot consider it for the top 10 because of the MoDOT break. Here are a few honorable mentions that are just short, almost long enough to be in the top 10. First off, we've got Denver at 326 miles away in Hayes. This is the farthest east Denver sign that I could find other than the one in Lawrence that's 250 miles further east than this. We've got a tie in South Dakota with Rapid City and Sioux Falls, both being signed from each other at exactly 336 miles away. So it's interesting that the first sign for each other would both come at the same mileage distance. I suppose the metro areas for Rapid City and Sioux Falls are not very large, so you get signed for distant control cities pretty soon after you get away from the downtown-ish exit. And then finally, this one would be top 10, but I can't quite count it on the New York State Thruway. We're getting Buffalo 388 miles away. The New York State Thruway does in fact go there, but that's two different interstates, not one. That's I-87 and I-90. It's the same road throughout, but it is two different numbers. Montreal is all I-87, 328 miles away, so that could qualify, but once we are north of Albany, the Northway breaks this up. Once the New York State DOT takes over rather than the toll authority, almost, but not quite. Plus, you could get to Buffalo faster by taking a different route anyway, so there's not any reason anybody would take this road all the way to Buffalo. All right, let's look at our actual top 10 longest distance control cities. Yeah. Number 10, Los Angeles signed out of Phoenix. In this case, Caltrans actually does consistently sign LA once we're over to the California side. Even though we have the Inland Empire first, the signage for Los Angeles is still fairly consistent, so this one counts. Number 9, Portland at 372. This is right after Ontario, Oregon, as we come in from Idaho. They easily could have signed Portland from Boise, but you gotta sign random suburbs and Ontario for some reason. There are probably earlier ones in Salt Lake City. The first sign I could find for it outside of Vegas was at 394 miles away, and it is signed consistently after that. I'm sure there are a number of mistakes in this episode. I do apologize for those. If you have pictures of better versions of what I'm doing here, send it to me at controlcityfreak@gmail.com. Number 7. On I-5 southbound, we are signed for Los Angeles at 398 miles away. So far as I could tell, this is the earliest Los Angeles sign. LA is signed consistently the entire rest of I-5 until we get there. Number 6 is also I-5 in California, and it is when they start signing Portland, because Portland is signed consistently northbound on I-5 in Oregon. Oregon does a good job signing Portland in northbound I-5 and on westbound I-84, but does a horrible job signing the smaller places on the outbound from Portland. Number 5, coming out of Salt Lake City, I've got Las Vegas at 402 miles away. So that one's a little bit longer than the sign coming out of Las Vegas, but I think that's just because there's more sprawl in northern Vegas before we start getting this sort of sign. Again, I could be wrong on it. Obviously, it's the same distance in both directions, but I'm just looking at the number on the actual sign. I-94 westbound coming out of Bismarck, North Dakota is good for number 4. And we've got Billings at 408 miles away, and that's a different state, so that's pretty cool signage too. Number 3 is the same stretch of road going the other way, and it is I-94 eastbound coming out of Billings at its very start, right after leaving I-90, and Bismarck is signed 410 miles away. It's the same distance, obviously. In this case, just a matter of we're getting a sign a little bit earlier than the other way. Maybe coming out of the Bismarck metro area cost a couple of miles the other way. Number 2, I-70 in Utah signs Denver at 507 miles away. Denver does not appear on every sign going in this direction. Sometimes we get Grand Junction on the bottom of the line, but Denver is frequently seen enough that it counts. Number 1, El Paso, coming out of the San Antonio suburbs, in fact, 518 miles away, and El Paso is pretty consistently the primary control city for I-10 here, so that's pretty impressive. Obviously, in the opposite direction, the same thing would be true, but TxDOT with all these slip ramps and these kinds of things, it's really hard to find mileage signs. You see here the mileage sign's on the wrong spot. It's before the speed limit sign. It's usually after the speed limit sign. Coming out of El Paso, they spend too much time worrying about the Metroplex for one, and also worrying about places like Van Horn or Fort Stockton as the bottom line. San Antonio is not as consistent in that direction as El Paso is going westbound. I couldn't count San Antonio, but I will count El Paso as our number 1 most distant control city. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed researching this stuff. It's kind of hard to figure this stuff out because this does not exist on Wikipedia, does not exist on ChatGPT. This is just me figuring out this stuff here. If I made a couple of mistakes, I do apologize. I'm certain that I did. Maybe one day I will make a corrections video if there's a lot of mistakes in this video. Until next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.